This is kind of a new frontier.
AI is very interdisciplinary. Data science, criminal justice, philosophy, poli-sci, there's overlaps in there.
There's this big vacuum that's happening with AI regulation.
Now seems like a good time to think proactively about what are the right ways to work with AI.
We all have different skills and different ways of investigating AI and thinking about what might be better for people in the long run.
If you don't understand what's actually going on in these things, these systems that are being used, they're going to run over us.
UNC Charlotte has the Center for Humane AI Studies, or we call it CHASE. CHASE is an effort to bring together social scientists, people in the humanities with people in computer science to think about what is the ideal future that we want to create with AI.
You can never have anything that's fully bias-free that's made by human beings. What the Center for Humane AI Studies is doing is trying to say, what if we start from the humanities questions? What if we start from the ethical implications?
Artificial intelligence is an umbrella term. It could describe lots of different types of techniques.
In the past 2 years, since GPT really hit the mainstream, the field of AI has really changed quite a lot.
The good side of AI is that it makes things possible that seem almost magical. 5 years ago, I would never imagine a tool that can instantly help write me a letter.
It's being integrated with healthcare and insurance decision making.
I'm super optimistic about AI in terms of medical care and medical research. If you look at the way that they could use it to model what proteins look like when they sort of fold up and generate, that's actually a significant advance.
Artificial intelligence in the form of large language models is being used in hiring to vet people's resumes. All of that is very different, but in many ways kind of concerning.
AI literacy is not nearly where it needs to be for us as a society to be able to deal with these technologies.
Law and regulation are slow, and technology is fast, and that all by itself is a problem.
What we're actually seeing in the AI world are state politics and state political institutions are on the front lines of AI regulation. The federal government hasn't really stepped in and done anything of a regulatory tone. What's even more interesting is what's happening with AI is the opposite of what typically happens in politics, where older folks tend to be more politically informed, more engaged, and more active in terms of contacting legislators or voicing their positions. And young people are disengaged. With AI, it's the opposite. Young people are more informed, young people understand it.
But there is enough going on, and there's enough activity around it, and there are a number of bad things that could happen that now seems like a good time to think proactively.
This is an extremely new area of technology.
There's a window for academics to get their voices heard.
People are starting to worry about AI and starting to think about, well, what are the long-term, short-term consequences of AI in this area?
One of the things that you have to be very careful about is checking your data sets, the training data that gets used to build these systems for discriminatory outcomes.
People in general need to know how AI works more or less, and we need to think about particularly pedagogical strategies for getting that out there.
So we're trying to figure out how can we connect this to the need for regulation and the need for policy intervention.
We're not particularly looking to produce a product, but to drive a conversation.
The importance of all of it, and the reason that we think it needs to be very carefully investigated and really, really deeply considered by as many people and as many perspectives as possible. It's increasingly a part of our everyday lives, but also the impact that these technologies can have on our lives can be outsized.
In 10 years, I would love if CHASE was humming with all sorts of different types of people, different types of scholars, and different types of students, all working together to make sure that we're creating and maintaining the future that we all want to live in.